December the 16th, 2020. Let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for the Pledge of Allegiance. The 3, 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag of the United States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and justice for all. Thank you. So we want to welcome all people, our listening audience, our viewing audience. Thank you for coming. This has been a year that I am sure we will not forget in a long time, if ever. So much has been, our value system has been tried this year, so many ways. And national, international, as well as local basis, we have all experienced challenges. For me, it has allowed me to understand that we have more commonalities than we have differences, and that we are all in this together. Parents, I want to thank you for entrusting the education of your children to us. Schools, we do not take it lightly. It has not been an easy decision not to open up our schools. Our concern has always been safety for children first. We feel that do what is right for children, the adults can follow along. Do know our children need support. Big way. Not going to take that lightly. We are going to put certain things in place to make sure that our children recover. We are going to endure this. So I want to thank all our staff, the superintendent, the board members, our students for being resilient. Young people, that life is not going to always deal you a fair hand, that you're going to have to be able to be flexible. And this is what this is teaching us. And to our students, I want to apologize to you because the adults in this equation did not get it right. So supposed to protect you or another, we have allowed in this country an epidemic to occur. It should have existed to this degree. And so you young folks need to know that we don't always do it right, but we expect for you to learn from our shortcomings and do it better. With that, I'd like to get this business going and move forward. We have a lot to talk about today. We have a lot to celebrate. I have tears in my eyes about one of these celebrations that we're about to do. It's tugging at my heart. So if I start crying, just know that it's because I'm sincerely sad to see one of our stellar educators exit. I just want to grab her and hug her and kiss her right now. Dr. Cash, I'm going to turn this over to you for your superintendent's update. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cotman. Good evening, board members and community. I think President Cotman's words at the beginning of the meeting provide an excellent overview of our meeting today, but also a great segue to this very special educator that we're recognizing here tonight. Certainly a protector of children and value set that we all share because it's been her core values over these many years of service to do exactly what great educators do on a daily basis. Terry, how are you? I see you. Wave at it. Okay. On November 1st of 2020, Mrs. Teresa Terry Shuda retired after 28 years of service to the Buffalo Public Schools. Terry Shuda started her career teaching at Nardin Academy and as an elementary school teacher in the Buffalo Public Schools. She then served as a program coordinator at School 77. Terry Shuda followed that experience to serve as assistant principal at School 78 Duville Porter Campus School number 3, and at Lorraine Academy, School number 72. Terry was privileged to then serve as the principal of Southside Elementary School, number 93, a school that she had attended as an elementary student. She guided that school to a strong record of academic achievement and community engagement. She was instrumental in establishing significant federal grant-funded programming that met the social and emotional needs of her students. Her final year at Southside saw the school achieve good standing on a statewide accountability status. Having also attended South Park High School in her teen years, Terry was promoted to the principalship at South Park High School, number 206. She was a tireless advocate for her students. Her efforts led to increased graduation rates. And as a devoted Sparks fan, she cheered the loudest when the South Park football team claimed the state championship in 2015. South Park High School also became a hub for community supports to be put in place that met the needs of the community. The school was one of our initial community schools. Terry Shuda is known for her relentless marshaling of community resources to improve the well-being of students. She was also personally connected to and supportive of her students, staff, and families. And I've seen her in those hallways and in those classrooms, and she knows the students by name, even though that's one of our largest high schools. She has been unwavering and consistently positive about the critical role that schools can play in transforming the lives of students. In sum, the mayor of South Buffalo, as I have often heard her called, gave her heart and soul to serve the belief that every student has a right to an equal and high quality education. Congratulations, Terry Shuda. You will always be dear to all of us. God bless you, and we love you. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank my
Wait,
husband. Yes?
Terry, can I just hold, because just so everyone knows, I actually have a proclamation from one of South Park High School's most distinguished alumnus, Congressman Brian Higgins. So if you'll indulge me for just a moment.
Okay.
So this is honoring Terry Shuda in the congressional record, proceedings and debates of the 116th Congress second session. The Honorable Brian Higgins of New York in the House of Representatives states that he rose today to honor the significant contributions of Terry Shuda, one of my closest friends, as well as a true leader within the Buffalo Public Schools and the South Buffalo community. She has so diligently served on the occasion of her retirement as principal of South Park High School. A proud product of the Buffalo Public Schools, Terry returned to the halls of the schools we walked together as classmates throughout the 1970s as the principal of Southside Elementary School for 7 years until her appointment as South Park High School principal in 2009. Rising through the administrative ranks, she also gained experience as the assistant principal at Lorraine Elementary. In the profile of Mrs. Shuda following her appointment, the Buffalo News headline got it just right when it said, "Community roots anchor new principal to South Park." Calling herself a neighborhood kid, Terry said, "Someone needs to lead South Park who loves South Park." I think that is going to resonate with the children. There are a variety of others, and I just want to hit upon some of the other high points that Congressman Higgins spoke of as well. Terry's enormous contribution to South Park High School has not gone unnoticed. In fact, she has been recognized for fostering accountability in the high school, which resulted in a 10% increase in its graduation rate over the past several years. She also pioneered the Bright Lights of South Park program. The program highlights successful South Park graduates as a source of inspiration for current students. Students can then use that inspiration as motivation for their academic work and to live up to their full potential. She oversaw the well-received and extensive building renovation project, the successful 100th anniversary celebration, including the 2016 release of Our Fallen Warriors Remembered, a timeline of the more than 150 South Park students who lost their life in service to the country. Amazingly, Terry has always found time for others as she is active and passionate community volunteer. Terry was awarded the organization's Campaign Volunteer of the Year award in 2019 in recognition of her outstanding commitment to United Way. Her professional achievements and personal contributions earned her the well-deserved recognition as one of the 42 extraordinary women featured in the book, Women in the City of Good Neighbors. Her work with the United Way, local charities, and families in need has positively impacted and inspired so many individuals as she personifies the values of faith, friendship, and service others instilled in her as a member of the drilling family of Lilac Street. She and her husband, Michael Schutter, a retired Buffalo police officer, continued that tradition of service with their daughter, Katie, who has followed in Terry's footsteps as the principal of the Buffalo Public Schools School of Culinary Arts and Management. Katie and her husband, Jonathan Whiteside, have recently had a son, Joseph Michael Whiteside, adding proud grandmother to Terry's many titles. Their son, Michael, holds an MBA and works as a senior accountant for PCP, Piziotronics in Cheektowaga, New York. So with that said, the Congressman wanted to thank all of his fellow members for allowing him to honor his friend, Terry Schutter. As she is proud of all of her accomplishments, the indelible mark she has left she has made in uplifting the lives of her South Park High School family and the legacy she has left for others to follow in her school and community. From Congressman Brian Higgins, a very nice and accurate tribute. Thank you very much for all of your service, Terry.
Thank you so much. But I want to go on record to say that I was Congressman Higgins' senior class president. He was not the senior class president. So we always laugh about that.
Woo!
I want to, first of all, I want to thank my husband, Mike, and my kids, because we talk about it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a family to support a principal when you're doing the hard work day to day for nearly 20 years. So I want to thank my family. You know, I was lucky to see the art of leadership through strong women in the Buffalo Public Schools. I came through the powerful example of Marion Canedo, Yvonne Hargrave, Rita Eisenbeis, Roz Taylor, Evelyn Pizarro, and they were just a few of the women that let me know it was okay to be a strong leader as long as you were working hard for children. And that's what I do believe that I've always done. Dr. Cash, you've often told us that to make sure you have a team of people you can count on, have someone you can call, who you can work with. And boy, was I lucky to have two assistant principals that were with me during my whole tenure. Natalie White, outstanding at Southside Elementary for 7 years. And she was the person that helped me orchestrate school improvement to a school in good standing. Mike Morris, all of you know that it is not the Terry Schutter years at South Park High School, it's the Terry Schutter, Mike Morris years. We were together for a decade. And Mike has done a phenomenal job during my illness, taking over during the pandemic and just doing outstanding work. I do appreciate so much the support, Dr. Cash, for all the superintendents that I've worked under, the board staff, the Board of Ed. I see Sharon and Lou, we've been together a long time. And I just so appreciate also all members of the Buffalo School family that have worked so hard. Thank you to South Park High School, Southside Elementary, the students, the staff, the parents, my community. I've often said, it's okay to do your life's work where your life is. I've lived my life in about 10 blocks, and boy, what a wonderful career I've been able to have, and most that a lot of educators dream of. And so I want to thank you for letting my dream be answered. And Darren Brown, remember the day you and I, when you started, the
I
first
do.
day at South Park High School. And I was
Absolutely.
down there helping. And I
Yep.
remember Darren walking in, and look at how wonderful Darren has done and contributed. So I don't think my advocacy is over. I have my grandson here on the side who wants to probably say hi. And he is waving, there he goes. And we just want to, our family wants to thank you. My mom was so proud because she would say, my mom was the clerk at the little neighborhood store across the street, down the street from South Park. And she would tell her neighbors, God, aren't we proud of the little girl from Lilac Street? So thank you for giving my mom that moment. And I will see you in the future as I continue my advocacy for kids. Thank you. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, every holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
You're killing me today, Terry. You're killing me. That's my kitchen cabinet buddy. I've always been able to depend on her to get sage wisdom and advice and support. And me today, you really are. I hate, I know we're going to continue to work and fight for these children, but this legacy is cut. For Buffalo Public Schools is ending today, but not the advocacy work. Are there any other board members that would like to give a shout out to and we really should honor her as Dr. Shula because she's really done a phenomenal job. Terrence?
Yes, Dr. Shula, I know I'm always been very impressed with your work. Kids from the east side of Buffalo always talked about you and your efforts that you put into their lives. And I could just go one instance. I came to see you a couple of times, but one time he was in the office and a young lady came in, a student came in crying. She was in tears, and it just touched me to realize that you're a mother to these children, a mother and a grandmother, and that there's no way anybody can replace you. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that it's been my pleasure to work with Terry. I could tell a lot of anecdotes, but I'll keep it to one. When I was on the board, I remember one of my fellow, I would use Terry as an example of all the different things that she was doing. And she was always able to marshal support from the community and get staff and her school engineers and all these people to come together to do great things for her two school buildings. And one of my board members whispered to me, said, stop talking about all these things that Terry does. None of us can get done what Terry does. So Terry, I thought that was a very nice tribute to you because you've been able to accomplish so much for both South Side and at South Park. And you're going to be missed. You're going to be missed sorely.
Thank you so much. And I just really am grateful for the opportunity, and I thank the city. The mayor's been great to me, and we've just it's been a wonderful opportunity, and I just hope that and when Brian had said that it was a 10% graduation rate, I believe it was 30. So when we went in, it was in the 30s, and I think we hit 70, and that was our thing. Giving the opportunity for high-risk kids to get high school diplomas. That was our mission. So thank you so much, and I'm sure I'll see you all again.
I have one more accolade coming your way. So board member Jennifer Marcuzzi has asked to say a couple of words.
So we didn't really connect as much, but I just need to tell you there was in my listening tours in the West District, a project of School 77. I definitely know of you, who you are, and principals and staff alike, they refer to you as almost a model. And I feel like you've set the bar, in this district. And for you, I was listening in, I just got home, but I was listening in, and, even though you're friends with the congressman or whatever, that's some huge accolades. And I just wish you the very best. I really do. And just know that even though we didn't personally connect, I know more about you, and you've really inspired so many people in this district. So thank you so much, and congratulations on your new chapter.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I just so grateful. Thank you.
You. Thank you so much. Well, okay. I'm still going to be calling you, so don't worry about it. I'm not leaving you alone. Okay, Dr. Cash, thank you for your work, Terry Shuta. God bless you. And people need to know that you did this with health challenges, so there are no excuses. No one has a right to have an excuse not to make a difference in a child's life. You can wear that badge of honor. Thank you so much.
What's the grandbaby's name, Terry?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Joseph Michael.
Would that be Katie's baby by any chance?
Yes, it's Katie's baby.
Okay.
Katie's here too, helping with technology because I'm an old timer. So we have the new shooter model coming in, and I have to say how proud her dad and I are of her, and I think that she's continuing to work. I often refer to Katie as the plumber's son. And plumber's son know how to do things at a very young age because they're around. Katie, my family, we lived the Buffalo Public Schools since Katie was a young child. So I think that Katie's really making her mark, and I'm sure we're going to see great things from my daughter.
That's right. And from Joseph, who's going to be a principal one day.
Yes, we just hope. Yes, we're trying to get him ready. Yeah, we're just hoping he doesn't get kicked out of kindergarten. He's a little active. So we're good.
He'll be a better educator as a result.
Right. And that's and I want to say one more thing. I have to thank Dr. Williams because honestly, when I went and I volunteered for South Park High School. And I was an elementary person, and I said, Dr. Williams, let me go. Let me give it a try because I love South Park, and I believe that I was the right person at the time in the history of South Park. And so I am very thankful to Dr. Williams for giving me that opportunity.
That's right. He'd appreciate that. We'll pass that on to him.
We're going to miss her. Okay, Dr. Cash, we're going to continue. Thank you. And
I see a couple of people waiting, and particularly a student, a young man, or maybe a young lady. So maybe if we do the speakers first, and then I can just go to my update after. Would you like to change that like that?
I have no problem with that. I don't think we need a motion to change the agenda. Typically do that. So, Mr. Petrucci, are you there?
I am present.
Speaker portion of this agenda for us, please.
Gladly, thank you. Our first speaker of the evening is Bethany Garcia, a parent who has concerns about the reopening of schools. Ms. Garcia, are you on the line?
Mr. Petrucci, do you want to read the statement first for our speaker?
I would if I had it, Darren. I do not have it in front of me.
I think I have it. Typically, our staff provides it. I'll read it if you don't mind, Lou, okay?
No, please, Sharon.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting open to the public, advised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. This board asks that speakers conduct themselves professionally. The comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Buffalo Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district mission. And the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. Thank you for joining us. You have it, Mr. Petrucci.
Thank you, President Kottman. At this point, I'm going to ask one more time. Bethany Garcia, parent, are you on the line?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, Ms. Garcia. The floor is yours.
Okay, good evening. I had originally prepared a statement to read today, fueled out of anger over what has occurred since the last board meeting. But this afternoon, I spoke to someone I highly respect, who I also know highly respects me and knows the love I have for my child. So I decided to give you a little background and then some facts. My child was a happy 11th grader in March of 2020. She was a newly elected class president, excited for softball to begin, which she's been playing since the age of 5, and she'd also planned to get a college scholarship for. She was also excited for all the things she's waited so many years for: junior prom, homecoming, college tours, senior prom, and of course, graduation. Then COVID came. She is not the same child she was, and frankly, I don't know if she ever will be. She's had to begin mental health counseling, and she's now taking medication to deal with stressors that no child should have to. I've heard over and over again about learning loss and how kids will make up for it, but we're forgetting for some, this is it. Any making up of my child's education will come at my child's expense as a remedial class in college. That's not fair to her. Now, in the beginning, I wanted my child to return to school, and that's still my personal objective. But this whole pandemic has really raised bigger questions for us as a district. The district states their belief in putting children and families first to ensure high academic achievement for all. But who's measuring that? How do we as parents believe a district who has been anything but family driven about the numbers we've been given, percentages of attendance, passing students, or students on track to graduate, when actually dissected, aren't accurate? How do we know children are on grade level when they haven't been administered a single test? The truth is we don't. Who's making sure that the board knows that all a child has to do is log in for 5 minutes on any given day and they are marked present for the entire day? Or that a statement that was given on incompletes is completely inaccurate? I went to a school-based meeting as suggested by the president of the school board, and I found out my child's school alone has over 1,000 incompletes for the first semester. Has any board member asked to see the data without the criteria-based schools such as Da Vinci, Olmsted, Hutch Tech, and City Honors included? Because we all know the majority of them are doing good, but without them included in our data, our school district's a much different picture. Schools have been deemed safe to open. Even Hamburg, who had the highest percentage of COVID just 2 weeks ago, is getting students back in the building. As a result of this pandemic, children and teens, especially in the city of Buffalo, are dealing with economic devastation, housing insecurity, social isolation, disrupted schooling, and potentially a loss of life in either their family or their local community. Child psychiatrists have seen a significant spike in anxiety and depression among young people and report a growth in young people coming into hospitals with dangerous psychiatric emergencies. I know you guys will say we have programs for all these needs. And yes, on paper you do. It looks great. But the engagement in those programs is not enough. When only 3,000 families responded to your survey about reopening in a district of 32,000, it should have been a red flag. If one family isn't heard or doesn't feel like they're being heard, true family engagement is not happening. Dr. Cash and the board, I know a lot of us may not fit your narrative, but some families are drowning. And when we try to speak out, we're silenced. We cannot allow that to continue. It's about statements that were made, like the other day, when it's not, you're making statements saying it's not safe for you to be outside, while ignoring the fact that 90% of your district is living in poverty, and the parents and a good percent of your upperclassmen have no choice but to go out in these conditions every day as essential workers. That was hurtful. There is no right or wrong here. We're all just parents who are trying to do what we believe is best for our children, and that's our right. I am a New York State credentialed family advocate at a local mental health agency, and I'm sorry if my advocating offends anyone, but sometimes things just need to be said. It's not just about opening schools anymore. It's about improving communication and respecting us as equal partners in our children's education. It's a promise
Bethany,
all of you made.
Are we, you're way, I try to be indulgent, but you're way, and one more way
Okay.
over time. Could you please wrap it up? We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Many of us are just asking for a seat at the table when these things are discussed. You guys only have to deal with the repercussions of this as long as you are board members and superintendent. We have to deal with the repercussions of this forever. Let's stop the arguing and begin to be honest about what's working, and let's be honest about what's not. And starting tonight, figure out how to validate every parent, district employee, and student. Nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garcia. Next, I have Tyler McDavie, parent, with respect to the return to in-person instruction.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes, I am a parent of a first grade student at North Park Community School, and I also want to use my time to urge the district to provide in-person instruction to families that need it right now. When schools were first closed, we didn't know much about this virus, how it spreads, who it impacts, what the outcomes are for those infected. Now we know more. The risk is not zero, but it is quite small in schools, especially with rigorous precautions in place. I'm a special education teacher outside of the district, and my school has several precautions in place as we have had a hybrid model going since September, guided by the Department of Health recommendations. These measures can and should be taken to get kids back in the classroom before March. Our students should not be spending a full calendar year without the educational, social, and emotional benefits of being in a safe, compassionate, structured learning environment. My son is very isolated. He gets precious little time to have conversations, important 6-year-old discussions about dinosaurs or robots or aliens, and these conversations are crucial in our young people's lives. The teachers have had a monumental task of trying to teach fully virtual. It's evident to me and many of the other parents that they're working incredibly hard and evolving and learning as the year goes on. But sitting in front of a screen for 2+ hours straight every morning is really tough for these early elementary students. My son is bored a lot. Not because the teachers are bad, but because the setup is just not conducive to that group's instructional needs. So why are we still here? Why has no one asked us if we'd be interested in an in-person option since the summer? In August, when there were community meetings about reopening, the district said it would wait a couple of weeks, possibly into early October. Rates were low. They've spiked lately, but are trending down again. Schools can and should give kids a chance to come back. Schools can mitigate this risk substantially. My 6-year-old's mental health has deteriorated rapidly over the past 3 months, despite our best efforts to keep him calm, engaged, and active. He's having meltdowns on a daily basis, often more than one, experiencing lots of anger, frustration, regressing in many behaviors. Despite this, we feel like the lucky ones in this situation with a dual income household with flexible work schedules. Not a lot of other people have that in our district. Data from the CDC show the proportion of emergency department visits related to mental health crises are up 24% for kids 5 to 11, and for kids 12 to 17, up 31% since 2019. Suicide rates are up more than 50% for adolescents. Risks are higher for Black children. There are risks associated with returning in person, but in a hybrid model with proper guidelines, these risks can be heavily mitigated. The mental health benefits of returning our students to some sense of normalcy may outweigh the risks for many families, and we owe these families that opportunity. Once again, the district can reopen and do it safely. Families need an in-person option before February, before March. All families need to have an option to return to school. Let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDavie. Next on the speakers list, I have Assunta Ventresca, grandparent, citizen, and former district employee regarding the whole child model and the wellness policy. Sue, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
We can. The floor is yours, Ms. Ventresca.
Well, good evening. Thank you for letting me speak this evening. Again, I'm Sue Ventresca, grandparent of 2 students. I'm the vice president of New York State Council on Adolescent Pregnancy. And I don't know if you're aware, but I was a public health director prior to working for the board. So I'm speaking this evening to strongly encourage the district to fully implement the district's wellness policy. This is based on the whole school, whole community, whole child framework from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Full implementation of the model would link health, education, and the social emotional needs of students and their families. Students that are healthier and have their needs met have a greater chance for success. And as you've heard me say over and over again, healthier students are better learners. Parents, students, BPS staff, administrators, board members, and community partners all participated in the wellness policy development. And we used data, including the YRBS, to drive that policy development. Parents and youth were empowered to be partners, and they shared in the decision-making of the policy, and that gave it so much strength, parent and student involvement, and the data. So the work that was done has been recognized nationally with awards. Sue Baldwin had an inclusion, was asked to include an article in a special edition of the Journal of American School Health Association, and she has been asked to speak internationally on the same subject matter. The wellness policy is due for revision. Data is essential in the planning of it, and I wondered when the YRBS data results from 2019 will be shared with the community. And I was just wondering if you understand that the wellness policy infrastructure is not there. So you need, for success of a policy, you need administrative support and infrastructure and staffing. So all students, especially the most vulnerable, will need additional supports when returning to when the schools reopen. So let's work together on creating a healthier school environment, which can be accomplished by the full implementation of the district's whole school, whole child, whole community wellness policy. Thank you.
Before you leave us, Ms. Ventresca, for those listening who may not be familiar with the acronym, can you explain what YRBS stands for?
The Youth Risk Behavior Survey is a survey that has been done for over 30 years throughout the country from the CDC. And Buffalo did it in 2011, and the results were very disturbing to the board. And they did things to say, what are you going to do about it? And so we started to develop the wellness policy, and we got a lot of input. And the policy, one of the huge changes was the sexual behavior changes. In 2000, I don't have all the stuff in front of me, but it was like 50% of high school students reported being sexually active in 2011 or 12. And 2 years later, after implementation of a strong sexual health curriculum, getting involvement from community partners to push in, getting parents involved, and parent leadership helped with all this, helping parents learn more about sexuality and their students and their youth, that now this district is below state levels of that number. It's down to like 30, the last I saw was 38% from 50%. That's pretty significant.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ventresca.
Thank you. And I love Terry Shuda too.
Thank you, Sue.
She had a wellness team at her school. She was very strong wellness, and she pulled in the community and parents, and she did it all. She had a whole child approach. Amen.
She did. All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ventresca.
All right.
Next up, Jessica Bauer-Walker, a parent and community health worker who wishes to discuss wellness. Ms. Bauer-Walker, are you on the line?
Yes, hi, good evening.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Jessica Bauer-Walker. I'm a parent and a community health worker, and I lead an organization that's focused on public health and public education. My work has been grounded in social determinants of health and what families and the community need to be healthy and safe and supported, where we live, go to school, work, play, shop, socialize, and worship. So I'd like just to ask everybody who's listening to the meeting right now to take a moment to think about that, because this has been an incredibly stressful year for everybody, and we're dealing with unprecedented times. And I want to appreciate all the hard work that everybody is doing, from the Board of Education and the superintendent and senior administrators, district level, as well as building level. And I also am here to lift up the work that parents are doing, because parents have had an unprecedented task right now.
Nothing illegal, literally nothing illegal.
Really important to think
But
about how we all
it says violation.
Excuse me. Everyone's Walker.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. That wasn't my background noise, I don't believe. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please
Thank you.
continue.
So again, I'm going to ask everybody to reflect for a moment on what do we need right now as a school community to be healthy and safe and supported. In my work as a community health worker, I work with all types of families. I help them navigate through the district as well as Department of Social Services and Public Assistance, help them to figure out their housing situation, healthcare and mental health, all kinds of things. And people are really struggling right now and not doing well. I think we all know that. And I want to encourage us to think about not how we work harder, but how we can work smarter. And we have, just as Sue Ventresca presented, this really innovative district wellness policy. I would really encourage us to take a look at in our next phase of work, how we fully implement this whole child framework and how we use this as a way to work together. That wellness policy was created with students, parents, district administrators, Board of Ed members, community partners, academics, public health experts, and really has a holistic framework that can help connect the dots. We had a great meeting yesterday with our whole child advisory board that I co-chair with Mai Win, who's the director of social, emotional, and wellness supports. So we're really willing to, dig in and help and see how we can do this work. Before we had the frameworks of trauma-informed care and social emotional learning, culturally and linguistic responsive teaching, restorative justice and practices. That language in large part was in the district wellness policy back in 2012. And so this really can help us to connect the dots between our efforts. There is no district wellness coordinator at this time, which really puts us at a deficit to be coordinating this work on a district level as well as a building level. Students and parents really need the support, as many of the other parents have spoken about. It's, people are not doing well physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally. And I would encourage us to have a whole child approach. We're dealing with the implications of COVID-19 as a public health pandemic. And we need to also think about the mental, emotional, and social aspects as well of what families need and what children need to be healthy and safe right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bauer-Walker. Next on the list, we have Vincenetta O'Donnell, grandparent regarding returning to school and reopening of schools. Ms. O'Donnell, are you on the line? Ms. O'Donnell? Last call for Ms. O'Donnell. Okay, I will move on to our next speaker. Shahad Hossein, student, regarding community involvement in school relations. Shahad Hossein, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So, hello, I'm Shahad. I'm 16 years old and a high school junior. So today I wanted to talk about how important our community interaction and involvement is for students. So I'm part of my school student government, and our main goal for this year was to come up with ideas and facts about our community and things that we can do better. While we were talking, one of my teammates just said something interesting. Well, technically he was joking. He said we should ask the whole school about it because there are a lot of smart ones with like smart stuff in their brain. Then another one of my teammates said, yeah, definitely we should ask other schools for their ideas as well. Well, she was joking too, but that's when something came into my mind. It was, yeah, what if we all came up together, not just me and the members of the student council, but what if also members of the student councils from other schools? Well, I always wanted my thoughts to turn into reality, and since everything was online, me and a few of my friends hosted a Zoom meeting where we were going to share our school experience and come up with ideas and facts with our friends from Buffalo Public Schools. Well, the results, they were pretty surprising. Surprising how? Well, let me tell you. First, the meeting lasted for an hour and 30 minutes, and we wasted a whole hour just talking about stuff nowhere near education or ideas involving the purpose of the meeting. Second, there was a lot of humor, and I think I didn't laugh that hard in months. I think that's one perk of meeting new people. Even though some of us didn't know each other, we laughed a lot. And third, the 30 minutes that we worked, I don't think we could have come up with such amazing ideas and get most of our work done in a week's work of research. Well, it's not all about work and school. It's about that we could have come up as a community, not a school. And that was when I thought, like, why not talk about it here? I think we should do it officially as schools. If students on team sports can play against each other as schools, then why can't we come up together as a community? So that's pretty much it. And I really want to thank everyone from my community health worker training. Because of them, I learned about communities and history of community workers. And I think I wouldn't have been interested in hosting the meeting if I wasn't in the training. But after doing the training, well, I feel like I have a whole new perspective of how I should see things and what my job should be as a person in the community. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hussein. Next on our speaker list, I have Samuel Radford, fellow grandparent, leader of We the Parents, who wishes to speak about concerns regarding school reopening and the quality of remote instruction. Mr. Radford, are you on the line? Sam, are you there? I'll ask one more time. Mr. Radford, are you there? Okay, not hearing from Ms. Radford, I will move on to our next speaker, Rachel Fix Dominguez, parent and co-chair of the BPTO, who wishes to speak regarding keeping the BPS safe. Ms. Fix Dominguez, are you here?
I am here. Can you hear me, Lou?
We can. The floor is yours, Rachel.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Rachel Fix Dominguez, co-chair of the BPTO, which is one of the largest parent groups in the district. Our COVID-19 numbers are very high in the United States right now. We have unchecked, uncontrolled community spread across the country and right here in Buffalo. Every day I hear from another friend or relative about someone who's got COVID. I hear about it ripping through families who live in 3-generation households. I hear about kids' grandparents who are feverish, hallucinating, and vomiting, but when they go to the hospital, they're not admitted because their breathing and their pulse ox are okay. I hear about people who have lost a dozen friends or more to COVID. It is contagious and we have no immunity to it. It's not a joke or a hoax. What we do about schooling in a pandemic requires our leaders to look at the big picture and make a set of decisions that will keep the largest number of people safe. Education leaders like yourselves are not charged with putting politics or money first. You're charged with putting people first. Our students, our parents, our teachers, our teacher aides, our bus drivers, our bus aides, our cafeteria workers, our school nurses, our janitors and engineers, our administrators, these people's lives are important. We have to look at the system as a whole and put the greatest value on health and safety. As parents, we are making very significant sacrifices. But what else can we do? We, like everyone else around the world right now, are choosing from a bunch of bad options. It is striking schools all around the world. Many of them are veering wildly from remote to in-person to remote again. Meanwhile, school remains steady. Our students have had the same teachers every day. As the Buffalo News reported, our rates are the lowest in the region. That is exactly because we have remained virtual. Our effort to curtail the spread is working. We are keeping our community members safe with this strategy. In our very active Facebook group, not a day goes by that I don't see people helping each other. Have an IT problem? Ask in our group and you'll have an answer in minutes. Can't pick up meals for your kids? Let us know because we've got a roster of parents willing to deliver it to you. Haven't gotten your PT card yet? We'll troubleshoot and help you with it. This is not what any of us signed up for when we became BPS parents, but we understand that the pandemic has changed everything, and we all do our best to protect our community in these extraordinary times. We reject the idea that parent choice is most important right now. Sometimes, like when a virus is ravaging the world and killing people, we don't get to prioritize the individual over the collective. We respect the strong leadership in BPS and how you have protected the lives of the most vulnerable among us. I can't even believe that I'm here having to suggest to you in the second surge of this virus that we should not bring kids back into buildings right now. We all want our children back in school. We know that it's best for them, but only when it's safe enough to do so, and it is not safe enough right now. So please stay the course and keep kids remote until we have the virus in control again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much. This concludes our speakers for this evening.
Ms. Common, would you like me to respond?
Dr. Cash, would you be kind enough to respond to the speakers, please?
Yes. Colleagues, certainly we want to thank the speakers for their impassioned comments tonight. We appreciate them. The first two speakers, Mrs. Garcia and Mr. McKeevy, I like and appreciate your passion for what's going on with your children. We thank you for that. I've duly noted those situations, and I have specific staff that are going to reach out to you immediately to embrace your children and work out a plan that provides more support perhaps than what they're currently getting, according to your testimony tonight. So look for those calls, if not this evening, first thing tomorrow morning. Sue Ventresca and Jessica Bauer Walker, as you know, we always support and are about the whole child in this district. And certainly we support the whole child model and the wellness policy, and we have a board policy that supports that. I'm a little confused that you seem to suggest that we're not addressing that. I spoke to staff today, and they fully believe that principals in schools, Dr. Tanja Williams and her department, do support and are supporting this particular model. So if there's something specific that we could do better, let's continue to work together and do better. I agree with you, Jessica, that healthy, safe, and supported, making sure our families feel that way is what we need to do. Let's do it. Let's do it. Do it together. Use your staff and your resources to knit in with our work, and we can work smarter and help more people. That's certainly our aim during this time. I don't believe the grandparent got on the phone. I was taking notes, so I don't believe I heard from Miss O'Donnell. The next was student Mr. Hossein, Shayad Hossein. And not sure I fully understood you, sir, but what I did hear for sure was that you seem to have found your future calling, having listened to our board meeting. So that's a plus. If we can help you with your desire to become a community activist and help more people connect, then certainly that's a good thing. And then last for tonight, Rachel Fix Dominguez, always inimitable, eloquent, and concise. She talked about this has not been a good year for anybody. In fact, this is probably the worst year I can even imagine. 2020, I can't wait fast enough to get to December 31st and tip this year goodbye. It has been horrid on a whole lot of levels. But yet we're here. We're still here. And we're here working together. And Rachel, you suggested that working together, and you gave some specific examples of how we can do it, that we can get through this. And I think that was a good way to conclude our comments for tonight. So thank you, everybody, for your comments. We are working tirelessly toward the time when we can meet again in person, when it is safe and responsible to do so. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cash, for those comments. A response to our speakers. We did an agenda change in which you asked that we allow the speakers to go first, and then you would come back with your additional superintendent update. Are you prepared to do that at this time?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments about communications that'll be coming forward. Two particular communications now that we have reached a consensus agreement on when we reopen and how we go about that. First, our group will get, all of our employees will get an alert notice tomorrow morning about the 30-day notice, which will be the second notice from me, and getting them prepared to come back as a whole employee group. So all 10 of our employee groups coming back, being duly notified, and having time to make the arrangements that they need to make, as well as our families and our students the time to make the arrangements they need to make. So those two letters will be coming out in the next several days. Another important communication to alert the community to is that our school-based plans, the plans that each school has been working hard to develop, will be opened up for the public to view tomorrow morning. And we welcome everyone to take a look at not only their school, but at the schools across the district. These have been some very innovative, creative plans, very different in that we've wanted principals and their teams, including their teachers and including the community members and the parents for their schools to be engaged heavily in their local or their school plan. So let's make sure that we take a look at those plans and continue to provide our schools with feedback as we prepare to start with those children, the neediest children that the principals and their teams have identified, because they've been looking in on classrooms with their teachers. Teachers have been engaged as well with deciding who our neediest children are for each school. And this includes high school. So the high school group will be different than an early childhood or elementary school plan. The other thing you'll see in those plans is that the district does reserve the right to modify those plans as educational needs dictate and as the status of the pandemic dictates. So for example, as the one gentleman talked about his young son, the 6-year-old, who we do have concerns about at this point in the year, regardless of need, special need, language, or other. If you're young, it's a concern. So we're making arrangements to try to make sure that on top of the school-based number, that we also bring back pre-K through 2, pre-K through grade 2. I've signaled to the schools and to the operations teams to begin to bring back as well in that first group, And then at the high school level, in conjunction with some of the things that we've heard tonight, that we like to focus on the seniors. Some of the seniors, who are working, some of the seniors whose schedules have them way offline from the regular school day. Let's get them back on track and focused upon as soon as we can. We certainly have some supports going now for seniors, but I'd like to see them back with us in person within that first group that we open. So those are the kinds of things that you'll be seeing as we go forward in this plan. I had another lengthy conversation today with Dr. Dennis Quo, our medical director. He still holds with his recommendation, stands by it. He does say that the numbers are holding steady at this point, but we'll also have to look at what will happen after the December holidays, and it'll take about 2 weeks to figure out what that surge might look like, and we're hopeful. And then, of course, he says the continuity, the consistency is what's really important for young children and for all children, and to make sure we get these testing protocols underway, which has begun. That has begun. So overall, it's a tough time. We've all noticed that and made that point, but we still have to get through it. We don't want to fall into a sense of false security because the vaccines are beginning to be released, and having people believe that since vaccines are imminent, that we can therefore continue to do some of the behavior that has led to such a surge as we're in the first place. So be careful, stay alert, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this together.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cash. I have a couple of questions in regards to what you spoke about. I sent out an email asking for some clarity in regards to the possibility of changing our calendar. Currently, the way it's positioned, the children will come back the beginning of February, and within 2 weeks, a break. The suggestion was to move the break to the end of January so that the children can continue with continuity of education during that period of time. And this came from a parent, and I emailed it out to you and Nate and Darren, et cetera, to try to get some feedback on that because of the concern that there would be a break in right after the children got back. Are you aware, did you receive anything on that? Or have you talked, has anyone talked to you about that at this point?
Mrs. Cotman, if I may, I sent a response. Did you receive my response?
Didn't get a chance to check it. No, I did not.
All right. The day that you sent that inquiry, I sent a very detailed response to the entire board with a copy of the MOU that we signed with the BTF that clearly outlines that week as the midwinter recess. And I also sent a copy of the BOCES calendar that most suburban districts follow. And we know that approximately 50%. Okay. And so that Monday is a holiday anyway, and that's why that week is used for midwinter recess.
I think it's a good point that the parent did bring up. And I think that the BTF should be very receptive in assisting us to try to get some continuity and continuance with our education with our students. So yes, I remember receiving it now that you talked about it. I read so many of them. But I think that was something worth talking about and breaching because our children have been out of school almost a year, and then to bring them back for 2 weeks and then to cut them off, start all over again. I think it's something worth looking into. I really do.
Well, what would be the solution in your mind, Ms. Cotton? We'd have to get we'd have to get the BTF into a negotiating stance. Or
right.
Nate, do you have any thoughts? Nate.
Well, maybe Mr. Kuzman is not there. We can come back to that once he's available. But my concern is making sure that the children continue with the education. And yes, Mr. Brown, I do remember reading your, now that you brought up the calendar and et cetera, et cetera. I do remember seeing that. We have a board member's hand up. Mr. Your hand is up. You have something to say on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Dr. Cash's comments with updates regarding reopening. I've begun having chats with parents and teachers and BPS stakeholders. Had my first one this past Monday, and I'm going to start doing them weekly. I thought it was very helpful, very informative. It helped me get a deeper understanding of what parents and teachers are dealing with right now. And there's just, people are stretched thin, and they are really just ready for their kids to return to school. I think there is a consensus that they understand with this surge we're currently facing, that right now is not the time, but people want to really have some faith in a timeline, in a plan that we're going to execute when the time is right, February 1st, hopefully. And just beyond that, the other themes that were shared was parent and community outreach, equitable access to education, better communication. There was really an emphasis too from both parents and teachers that when we get a survey going again in January, that we really do a massive push with that survey so we can really get broad input from hopefully close to, I think our goal should be 100% of our parents to really know where they stand on this, what they want for their children, when the opportunity is there for them to return. And then the last thing, I think, Dr. Cash, you clarifying that pre-K to second grade is a priority right now for all of our buildings. That is helpful information that many parents that I speak to, they're parents of the younger children. So that is helpful to know that they are falling in that first priority group. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next hand up is Mr. Hurd. Hurd, you have something? You need to put your mic on, Mr. Hurd.
Thank you. Thank you again, President Belton Cottman. Dr. Cass, I'd like to reflect on a couple of things that you said. One thing that I'm hearing from parents is that they are tired of surveys. There've been so many surveys that came up by so many different people. Is that you know they don't want to believe or look into a survey, especially if the numbers is only 2,000 or 3,000 parents or households that's participating in them. Just looking for a stimulus plan. I know we're looking at February right now, and if we're going to go in February, let's go full steam in February. I believe that your plan for pre-K to 2, and also with the seniors, which I've been voicing for a long time now, I believe that that's a great start. How we can identify the kids of needs, and especially with the seniors because of their college aspirations, not breaking up their cohort, but making sure that each and every senior have the opportunity to receive higher education, and to be given every opportunity. So I do agree with the plan, and I do believe in what you talk about, the science in it also. We look at the science, and we had Dr. Kuhl speak to us last week about this, about the pandemic and the levels that we're at right now. So there is still a huge hazard, that is out there for our children, our staff, workers in the schools, and we need to continue to look at those numbers also. And yes, you did mention about the vaccination that's out right now, and I would like to know, when would that vaccination be afforded to our teachers and staff members, and so that we can look for reopening schools.
Dr. Quo suggested that, thank you, Mr. Hurd. Dr. Quo suggested that it probably won't be 6 to 9 months before the average citizen starts getting the vaccine, 6 to 9 months. And right now, teachers are in the back of the line. I feel that educator staff should be close to the front of the line on this, particularly when folks are pushing for schools to open and yet aren't protecting those who be most at risk with this. It's a bit of a fallacy, colleagues, unfortunately, and I don't want to get deep into it, but it's a bit of a fallacy that schools somehow are safe. They're not safe if adults in the community aren't safe and aren't doing what they're supposed to do. It will come into the school. Schools are just microcosms of the larger community, and there's studies that have shown this, but we tend to be buying just this narrative about schools are safe. Well, yeah, children don't spread inside the school, but the virus is getting, people are getting infected from outside the school, may not know that they're infected, may have asymptomatic symptoms, and come to school and be there for 2-3 days before they even know. And then here we go with an outbreak at the school. So there's just a lot of things. I don't want to, go on and on. I could, but I won't. But the bottom line is that the COVID vaccine won't be available probably to us as educators and as regular people, lay people, for another 6 to 9 months is what. These are very selected vaccines. They're not even licensed, really. They were developed under an emergency situation. So that means there's a limited supply, and they'll be given out accordingly to frontline healthcare workers primarily. And then,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I seen a report this morning saying that the educators will be in phase 2 for the vaccinations. And
well, they may have changed. That's not what I understand when I look at the metric. I saw that we were pretty far back in the line, but we'll see. We'll see what they say. I certainly advocate for that, for us to be there. The other thing, colleagues, that you need to know is that we're trying to help. And you remember this, Terrence, a couple of months ago when you were even advocating for giving more time for those students to get vaccinated. who weren't able to get vaccinated. And I'm talking about the MMRWC, mumps, measles, rubella, whooping cough, and the like. And those are very serious childhood diseases. And we're kind of stuck on 750 to 800 of those students who still have not gotten that vaccination. And so if you bring those children back in the middle of COVID, they're at particular risk, I think, not only, and then others are at risk. So we don't want to compound that situation. Now, what I did talk to Dr. Kuo and Dr. Tanja Williams about is I want to, and Will Carestas is going to be our lead, Dr. Carestas, I want to activate that mobile health unit and try to bring that number down considerably, starting this week, starting next week. But until we open February 1, by mid-January, I want that group of students to have gotten their vaccines. And we're going to take that mobile unit around to the schools and to the communities and invite them to the schools to get that vaccine. That has got to get achieved, in my mind, before we open. It's too dangerous to have so many children starting to come back, and we still haven't gotten immunity for COVID. So that I hope answers your question, and then adds a little bit to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cash.
Additional hand that came up? Your hand if you're through. So the initial conversation I asked about the break.
Sharon, that was me. So when you're done, that was
the
my
initial
hand.
conversation. I didn't get a resolution, or I didn't get a complete a response in regards to checking into the possibility of that. I understand that we changed the calendar recently, and we were able to do it. The union didn't have a problem with it that time. Is it possible for us to consider that, considering that our children will have a break? My apologies, Lou. I wasn't able to see your hand. Go ahead, Vice President Petrucci.
Thank you, President Cotman. I just, as a point of clarity, and for those that are watching us this evening, the calls that I receive are from parents of not only pre-K through 2, particularly if they have multiple children in that age range, but also parents of English language learners and special needs populations. They seem to be particularly struggling at this point. Just so that everyone knows, Dr. Cash, are we anticipating bringing them back as of February 1st as well? They're going to be part of our first group of students to return?
Yes. When I look at the school-based plans as a whole, many of them do have elements of those populations in their plan. Not necessarily all ENL students and all special needs students, because there's a continuum of each of those groups. They're not all kind of one size fits all. So they're certainly in the plans. One teacher wrote me a long letter, and she made an interesting educational point. I just want to share it with you. She said, Dr. Cash, on the surface, it looks good to bring back your special education and ENL students in this first round. She says, I'm a special education teacher who also has ENL students, because there's overlap, right, sometimes. And she says, when we're online, I can see the children enunciate, pronounce, and develop their vocabulary and their word fluency much better than if we were in school. Because if we're in school, in person, we have to have masks on, and we have to stay distance. And I don't see and can mark and track the enunciation, the literacy, the word fluency. It just was an interesting point to consider. It doesn't mean writ large and therefore, oh my God, we just stay remote. No, it's just that she's able to see her students and get a better tracking of their development when she can see them. The mask on all day is a challenge when the key issue is enunciation and being able to mouth certain sounds and word groupings that you have to be able to assess as a teacher. But short answer is that many of the populations within those larger populations are in these school-based plans, particularly as we say tier 3 and then some tier 2 students. So many of them are, but as a whole answer, yes, for all of them, K through 8 or pre-K through 8, that would be a no.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if all minds are clear, let's move to the next step. I need a motion to accept previous meeting minutes for November the 18th and November the 24th. Have Terrence Hurd and second by Mr. Petrucci. All in favor? Are there any questions? Favor? Raise your hands.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Any noes? Okay, unanimously approved. Thank you. All right. Next, we have up our committee reports. We have December the 2nd work session and December the 9th work session. Does anyone have a report in regards to that? In addition to that, this is also the time that board members who currently are not necessarily committee chairs can also share that the work that they're doing outside of the committee. I can remember not having a committee chair for a period of time, and I started the Western New York, started working STEM during that period of time. And I reported out every meeting associated with STEM, and we are still growing that section of our school district. I have board member Terrence Hurd hand up first, and followed by board member Dr. Kathy Evans. And then third, I have Vice President Petrucci.
Okay. Thank you. We'll go back to last week to our December 9th Educational Support Committee meeting. One of our agendas, and I believe every school board member has been saying the same thing, is about stopping the school to prison pipeline. And this is one of the things that we focus on, and as we move forward, on our agendas. And we know that, education is much more prevalent now, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we continue looking at our graduation cohort every year and watching it grow. And our district has reported that this year we have over 75% graduation rate right now. That looks like for our 2020 graduation. And we have over 76.2% graduation rate. Thank you, Dr. Cash. But we know that still isn't enough. It's still more that we can do, and it's still more that we have to achieve for to reach our goals. 76.2 is a prosperous number throughout the COVID, but we know our kids can do more. Our teachers are working very hard. Our administrators went beyond the call of duty to initiate some of the programs that's going on now. And one of the things that we talked about is our graduation. These are dire times, dire circumstances, and they have developed a robust plan for our 11th and 12th graders and for college preparation. On December 9th, we had a presentation by David Hills. He's Associate Superintendent for Schools and Leadership. Martha Young, she's the Director of Guidance and Counseling Services. And also a team from Say Yes, David Rust, brought in Betsy Bernard, Tommy McLean, Daphne Ross, and Ikari Rivera to talk about some of the things they've been doing in the Buffalo Public Schools for our 11th and 12th graders to afford them graduation. We went on about our 2017 cohort review, and that includes building administrators, the guidance counselors, the designated data for champions, to champion our kids, and work with them so that they can be prepared for college and higher education, whether it's a college or whether they go into a preparatory school or whether they go into a career and technical program. So we looked at, we talked about our data dashboard, And we have a live graduation tracker that was developed by the OSA and the secondary associates of school leadership and principals. They all work together to look at our number, which we came up with for our graduation, a possible graduation rate, and how we can move forward as a district. Now, we all feel that this is very important as we build our base for our schools, since our kids are practicing remote education. And how are our, and the questions came up, how are our guidance counselors or our principals reaching out to our seniors and helping them prepare for college applications, how to fill out scholarship opportunities, how to look for different tools that can help them, achieve their goals. What Say Yes has to offer for college, and the old norm that we had, that no child should be left behind. And that's one of the things that we're looking at right now, is making sure that every senior is represented and make sure every guidance counselor and principal is working with our senior class moving forward. So parents should feel confident that this district is working with it. They use video tutorials. They have school web pages. They've been utilizing Facebook tools and other medias. We've been looking at our English AP students, our FAFSA support for families and students. We also talked about our Gates scholarship opportunities and our Gates fund that we received to help with this process. We look at an increase in advanced placement in courses, P-TECH. We talked about our college partnerships with our SUNY schools, and also schools that's out of state now. Now Say Yes actually offer scholarships for out of state schools. We have partnerships with our private, about 100 private schools across the country, and also some HSBUs. So we're really geared up this year, for our students, and I believe, all the things they put together works very well during this time of COVID, how we can, get our kids aspiring into a college. We look at, we also talked about 11th and 12th grade, but we know that our college preparation starts in pre-K. So all our teachers are gearing towards education, starting in kindergarten and pre-K, and we looked at our activities and working with our counselors. So there is a slew of things I can go through, but just a couple other things I would state towards this was our college scholarships. We had, like I said, we have 100 private institutions. We also have our seniors must be enrolled in our BPS and for a charter to apply for this for at least 4 years, from 9th to 12th year. And also we have our counselors working with our kids on a one-on-one basis. So it's not one counselor working with a group, but we also have counselors set aside to work with the individual students so they can handle this preparation for college. Just to go, we talk about our TAP and completion project, and we also talked about the Accelerator New York State plan, but which is superseded by Say Yes to Buffalo. It's very important that the parents also work with their students, which I work with my son, and our family worked with our son about his college preparation and things that he wanted to do. And one of the greatest things that we heard was University of Buffalo. It's a guaranteed enrollment. Fill out the application. They can help you with the finances and monies, and we can move forward. So please reach out to your guidance department, reach out to your principals, talk to your children about the scholarship and the financial aid and supports, and continue working. And I think that everybody to find a satisfying program here with the Buffalo Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Next up is Dr. Kathy Evans Brown.
Okay, you have to excuse me, my grandson is here today. Okay, so December 9th, an achievement report. There were 4 areas that we addressed at that work session. The first one was the Jesse Ketchum School Choice Resolution. This was a resolution introduced by Lou Pertucci, co-sponsored by Sharon Belton Cotman, and endorsed so far by board members myself, Kusi, and Paulette Woods. So it was a brief discussion that ensued with verbal support Board member Dr. Ann Ruthier indicated some work that still needed to be done to tweak areas of the resolution. Also, Dr. Cash committed to the resolution, thought it was a good idea, and to have his team work on the logistics. So there's some areas that need to still be tweaked. So we're looking at, awardees of the Jesse Ketchum School Choice to have an opportunity if they're interested in attending City Honors. So realistically, this could happen during the 21-22 school year. So it is the intention of the superintendent's cabinet to review this and hash it out. So it's going to stay with the student achievement area until we move that forward. Secondly, Dr. Cassandra Wright presented a summary of the first quarter report. It was very robust. She started out with talking about how great schools are defined in three main areas: great leadership, great teaching, and great community support. She presented a slide presentation, included the remote learning model that we have in place for our students. She provided some data, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she indicated that 80 to 85% of our students are signing in there every day. I also heard some data about seniors that Mr. Hurd talked about. We have about 75% of our seniors on track to graduate. And the district will be working with the 25% who are not at this time, but they will be putting some interventions in place to ensure that that happens. And then the third area was the emancipation curriculum infusion that was presented by Dr. Fatima Morel. And that is a curriculum that raises marginalized voices in our community among our children, African Americans, Dinges, Latinx, and American Indians. And then there's lessons that will be infused that correlate with the English, math. So it was very robust and interesting. You could go on the website if you want more detail about the emancipation curriculum. And it's new to people, so folks gonna say, what's the point? They don't understand it, but understand that our people, particularly kids in this district, need to look like them and understand that they too are in the books and they should not be eliminated. So I think it's going to be a good thing, and other districts are looking to adopt what we're doing. And then lastly, district's reopening plan was chaired by Dr. Cash and Dr. Darren Brown Hall, along with Dr. Dennis Quo. He is our as medical director. He's also a chief medical director and chief of the Division of Developmental Pediatrics at UBMD Pediatrics. So he was the one that noted, and this is science, you have to follow the science. We all want our kids in school, definitely, but the science priority. To Quo with us for some time and answer questions and provided data indicated is too much community spread of this virus. I learned today that one of my girlfriend's grandmothers died of COVID. Hitting home, and this is real. We have to follow the science. We didn't want to put kids in school and then they closed down, like the roller coaster that you see all over this country. We didn't want to do that. We're going to continue to follow the science. I understand that there's social and emotional and mental health concerns of children, teachers. We have to keep them safe. Quote reported in this district that it's too much infection, virus, and it's not necessarily, our students are getting it. Dr. Fix noted earlier that our numbers are so low because our kids are working remote. Provided a Q&A, Dr. Quo, for board members and staff to ask questions. And if you want to get his full report, you can go on the YouTube and look at the December 9th presentation. It's there for you to review. So that's all I have. No, lastly, I did attend the Parent Congress meeting facilitated by Dr. Ramona Reynolds. That was very robust. And some of this information was also shared with the Parent Congress. They're coming along, very organized. They have a focus. They want to, look at, reopening and have somebody come in, Mr. Hurd, to talk about some interventions that they can help out with that 25% of students who are not on core right now to pass. So it was an interesting meeting, and I'm going to continue to be the board liaison for that group because I'm expecting big things to happen to involve our parents, in these conversations. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Vice President. Next, we have up Dr. Ann Revere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to report on 2 CPAC meetings because I neglected to report out the November meeting. So I'll start with the November meeting. Just as a reminder, CPAC is the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, and I've been long attached to them, very proud of them. For their November 16th meeting, they worked on structures, routines, and supports for parents and caregivers of students with disabilities offered through Parent Network, as well as the series of workshops of positive solutions for parents geared towards BPS families as well as preschooler families to deal with some of the challenges of being virtual, some of the behavioral and other mental health challenges that can come with frustration as students are working in a different environment. They also covered Say Yes Health Homes, mental health clinics, and youth and peer support. On the December 14th meeting, they gave a variety of updates from the Special Education Department, which includes the status of initial meetings for IEPs, as well as ongoing CSE meetings, as well as some of the logistics and some of the details involved that would be involved when we move even closer towards reopening. There were some really good suggestions given at this meeting by CPAC members, particularly Ms. Ferguson, who pointed out that layers of support and intervention for our students with disabilities and their families and caregivers would be a really good addition to any kind of plans. She pointed out that schools, virtual centers, and daycare should be considered. Assistant Superintendent Holscher also agreed that that's a part of the plan, but that she would look at deepening those areas. There was discussion about surveying parents again, particularly parents and caregivers, families and caregivers of students with special needs regarding reopening and the kinds of supports they need. And there was some good discussion, some robust discussion about the consistency of surveying as well as the feasibility of that surveying. And there were updates regarding the special education strategic plan and the focus, the strong focus of increasing student voices, that there will be continued meetings with state ed and looking at the feasibility of student-led IEP meetings, because what that would do, it would give even more voice for our students with disabilities increase their participation in their own education. And as a parent of a student with a disability who graduated from Buffalo Public Schools, I heartily support that direction. It would make a huge difference. Their students themselves need to be able to tell us and be afforded the opportunity to tell those who work with them what they need in order to be successful. They are the only ones who know most intimately what they need for support. And finally, there was a presentation from the Mental Health Association, very timely, about self-care during the holiday season, as well as during the pandemic. And it was a pleasure to see President Belton Cottman at the meeting as well.
Thank you, Dr. Revere. And I took strong notes, a serious list of notes about the mental health things I need to do, and was able to share them with someone shortly thereafter. So
excellent.
I think we're all in this together. If nothing else, we're all in this together. I enjoyed the meeting, and I appreciate the advocacy of the parents in that group. They are a strong group, and they really want to see our district improve. We have board member Paulette Woods as an update.
Yes, aside from the finance committee, regular finance committee meetings, and did a presentation to the DPCC. They had asked for a presentation on the budget and the timeline for the budget, how parents and their parents' voices could impact the budget, how they could get their priorities implemented and have a voice in it. I want to thank Jeffrey Pritchard. He gave us some very excellent slide materials on the schedules for the budget from last year. We were able to go over the operating budget, the major revenues, expenses. We went over the process for the school-based budget and the opportunities for the parents to have input in there. We also went over some of the challenges that we're facing this year's budget with the possible 20% reduction, and the DPCC committed to lobbying and working to make sure that if the New York State budget has to be balanced, that it's not balanced on the back of the school district. So that was very positive. Yesterday, I listened to the Finance Committee meeting for the City of Buffalo Common Council, chaired by Councilman Wyatt. And one of the most interesting things that came up at that was the Common Council's continual concern about the City of Buffalo using our financial resources and questioning when they will be and whether they will be able to restore those funds if there is no federal bailout for the City of Buffalo and New York State. And they were strongly committed to monitoring the use of our funds and supporting to make sure we get a timely payback no matter what. So that was very positive. And the other third thing that I attended was the presentation by Dr. Ibram Kendai on the Stamp from Beginning program and on creating genius in our schools. And it was an excellent presentation with like 600 people. I thank Dr. Fatima Farrell for her continual emphasis on helping all of our parents, teachers, staff to rally around recognizing biases, disproportionalities, and his topic was becoming an anti-racist so that our nation can stand together around united principles. So those are three things that were aside from my regular finance meeting. I just wanted to mention those things. Thank you, Madam President.
I'm sorry, Mr. Petrucci, did I reach out to Lou? Did I overspeak? My apologies.
Thank you, Sharon. No, I appreciate it. It's actually, Board Member Woods is a good segue to one of the two things I need to discuss tonight, or would like to discuss tonight. On December 2nd, we had Executive Affairs Committee meeting. I don't know if most people in attendance realize, but there are 3 ways in which you become a charter school in the Buffalo, city of Buffalo. One is through the Board of Regents. The other is through SUNY. And we actually have 2 schools that the Buffalo Board of Education, they are chartered by us. There are 2, which is Enterprise Charter School and Westminster Charter School. Now, myself, Board President Belton Kopman, Dr. Kathy Evans Brown, and Board Member Scott attended a meeting with Acting New York State Commissioner of Education Rosa regarding charter schools, and these 2 schools came up as a topic of concern because the renewals are coming up and because of the way things were handled last time. She had a bunch of questions and concerns, so it was good that we had this topic going forward. You know, things we're looking for, things we're going to be looking at when we go to evaluate them this year and when the board decides whether or not they're going to extend, and if so, for how long. So that was one of the topics because their charter ends at the end of this year. So we need to continue to work on that moving forward. The next was that I know that the Revenue Ad Hoc Committee, I've been reaching out to Comptroller Williams' Chief of Staff, trying to finalize a date for us to meet with them. What they are proposing is that we have 2 meetings. The first meeting would be with the Ad Hoc Committee to kind of go over the topics that we had previously discussed, you know, process, notification, reimbursement, and the interest-bearing account. And then if there's anything else, they would ask that you'd give it to me and we'll present it to them prior to the first meeting. And then when they finalize their questions, we have this interaction, they would like to make a presentation to the board. So I will keep everyone apprised as to the date, but if anyone has, aside from those 4 topics, if anyone has anything specifically they would like us to ask the comptroller, please let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Petrucci. So do you see those meetings happening early in the new year?
Yeah, I'm going to, I reached out to Delano just to find out what's the best date. Normally she's carved out an hour for us. You know, if we can get an hour to try and, kind of finalize some of these things. With the previous meetings, we've had some basic answers to our questions, but I think that the board members that have been involved want some additional information just to kind of, it's a big topic, the process, the legality, how we arrived at this point. I think that we'll be able to get it done before, if we can, because it's a bad time, Sharon, early in January, but if we can get it done beforehand, I'll strive to get it done beforehand.
I understand with all that's going on. Mr. Hurd, your hand is up again.
Yes.
You take it down, or is it up again?
I just want to go ahead and report out about the Athletic Ad Hoc Committee meeting yesterday. Yesterday, on December 14th, we had an Athletic Ad Hoc Committee meeting in which we invited the Buffalo Public School Athletic Department and also representatives from the Buffalo Public School Swim Dive Program, which basically were allocated towards our high school swim and dive program. The members of the Athletic Ad Hoc Committee is Lou Petrucci. He co-chairs along with Jennifer McCosey as board members, and Sharon Belton Kopman as the president, and myself as chairman. Also invited and showed up yesterday was Cecily Owens from the Buffalo Public Schools. She's the BPS Assistant Superintendent for Physical Education and Health Education and Athletics. And Michael House is the Acting Athletic Director. We invited the parent swim coaches and representatives of the BPS Swim Dive Program. We also had a member from the Section 6 come and also spoke, at our meeting. The meeting was about the future of our swim dive program and what we have to do moving forward. And some of the things that Michael House spoke about was the future of it and be in alignment with the Section 6 and also with Title IX. These are very pressing issues because what we're talking about is access and opportunity for all students. And as we move forward, this is a perfect opportunity to plan to move forward and to talk about sports, and not just a swim and dive program, but all sports, so that we all be in alignment with the Section 6 and also the Title IX. There was a slew of questions from the community, a lot of concerns, but our answers was based upon equality and how do we move forward. And So as we talking about equality, we were thinking education, and so some of the answers were having a swim program for each high school, 12 different schools that's represented here in the Buffalo Public Schools, and that's how we stay not that we don't be in violation with the Title IX here in New York State. There are also state and federal issues that we're dealing with. So we wanted to make sure that equality and rethinking education affords for all children, for every student that's represented here within our district. Not to go too much into detail, we talked about the parent involvement. And moving forward, we're going to need parent involvement. We talked about having a robust plan that we put together along with the parents so we can work together about getting our alumni groups together to help support our programs in high school and our swim, not only but the swim dive program, but also all sports programs in Buffalo. We also talked about participation, about enrollment, about recruiting, moving forward as a district and building our sports programs and athletic programs. We had a couple of Buffalo Public School students who spoke very brilliantly. They were very persuasive in their talk and their messaging about protecting the program that currently exists, and we see them as one big family. Our swim dive program is a family, and we know that they compete statewide and won many state titles. And but as they're moving forward, and some of the things that all the things that we talk about moving forward was possibly putting together a survey so that we can see what programs kids want to participate in, what can we, what should we work on first, and also how this will adapt to our proposed modified sports program that we're working on also. So these are just some of the things that happened yesterday during our committee meeting. We had a numerous amount of participation at this meeting. And our board president spoke at the meeting also. And I believe that the athletic department is reaching towards our goals for equality for all children, making sure all children are treated the same and that they have the same opportunities, and as we compete against our suburban districts. So thank you so much. And any questions, please don't feel free to reach out to the Athletic Ad Hoc Committee as we move forward. Thank you again.
So thank you, Mr. Hurd. What I'd like to share with the board in regards to that that swimming ad hoc committee is that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in that area. We have young folks who have who have achieved a high level of performance in that group and who are concerned that they will not have the same equity opportunity to continue to grow. Clear to say that equity is about meeting every child where the children are and to move them to the next level. And that takes nothing away from any other child. Okay, so we need to have some serious conversation. It is my intent to have a serious conversation with the athletic department about making sure that these children who have excelled to a higher degree are continued to be pushed, moved to the next level. And I am concerned that these young people felt that we would not honor that and respect that. So we have a conversation that we have to have. Jennifer, board member Makouzi and I spoke in regards to that, and she's just raised her hand, which I'm glad she'll comment on it. But I feel that equity can be used in a lot of respects, but it cannot be used to minimize progress that children have achieved. And we have to continue to have to move children to the next level. And I want to make sure that, as with all teams, that you have premier players on a team. Everyone doesn't get to play for the Buffalo Bills or the Sabres every game. However, they're on the bench, they're there, they're waiting to take their turn. You do have a premier squad. And if these children are at the level that they deserve to be identified and promoted, then we need to make sure that they're encouraged and moved to the next level. Makouzi, would you like to comment on that, please? Or comment on that subject?
Thank you, President Cottman. Yes, I would. I'm also feeling that this needs more attention. It's true, President Cottman and I discussed a little further after the conversation, because equity has been used almost as a term to and it's not. It just needs to be communicated better what the real hurdles are here. So we don't have to get into major detail, but we do need the community to know that we did hear you. There is the fall program that has the competing young women who are actually competing under BPS, not under City Honors, not under Olmsted. This is a BPS program that is my power just went. This is a BPS program that in the one room too. That's awesome. Is inclusive for all schools, but as a district, what we need to do before we start moving things along and changing things up is we need to recruit more young women who are at the caliber of the swim to be able to be on this team. The proposal on the table is to take each and every school and have a swim program in each and every school. And the equity issue there, look at it, and it's been brought up many times. We fought hard for our football teams to be combined because we did not have the participation in every single school to be able to have a team in every single school. Able to do that for the boys and for football, which is majorly resourced, we need to be able to do this for our female swimmers. And then the programs that are in place currently, the winter program, hold on one second, baby. The winter program that's in place has been working for those students who in the fall, they have soccer, they have other sports that they play in the fall, and they want to do something in the winter. So they have the opportunity. There's not a lot of opportunity for our young women to be able to perform sports in the winter. So if we have to look at how this looks across the board. We'd have to hire new coaches for 10 different schools if we were able to do this, but we need to be able to build up, as President Kottman said, we need to be able to build up the base of swimmers necessary to be able to compete at that level with 10 teams, if that's the proposal on the table, and with having, participation in each school. So there's a whole lot that we need to consider as a district. The equity issue is something that if we're going to say it, we need to really address it. And I, for one, don't want to just make a quick recommendation and push this along. If we can make this a model for how we work with our other sports, then this is going to be amazing as we move forward. So there's no argument here, but we have to dig into this issue way more than just this one meeting we had yesterday. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I see one more hand. Mr. Hurd, really, for real, we really need to move forward. So can you wrap it up, because we're getting into thank you. You have your mic off. Put your mic on. Please put your mic on, Mr. Hurd. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. I was muted by the moderator. I would just like to say that that I'm confident that this athletic department here at the Buffalo Public Schools is working towards equity, for all children. It's a new athletic department, and they looked into the things that was done in the past and how they were done and what's needed to be changed for the future. And I'm very confident that the decisions that are being made by Cecily Owens and Mike House are very good decisions. That's moving towards all children and not to leave it out. And one of the things that we're talking about is the combined team, the swim team, the combined team, which has been competing for state titles, first or second place over the last number of years. And they are a family, and no one wants to break that family up, and no one wants to put an idea that they're going to be separated. But as we look at equality also for all of our schools, they look and see how can they put a swim program in each and every building for each and every school. And then we have to work together along with the parents and the superintendent and the district and the community working together to figure out how can we build our swim program, how can we recruit players, how can we work with summer programs and coaches and mentoring and counselors to help build our school programs and get kids interested into swimming. Now, one of the conflicts that Ms. McCosey was talking about was that our girls swim program will also fall at the same time as our girls volleyball program. So it's a decision they have to make, or decision whether it's going to be volleyball or swim or basketball. So it's many different obstacles, and we know that the boys and girls swim at different times because of the usage of the swim pools. So it's just there's no urgency at this time, but it's the perfect time right now to be aligned so that we can compete against suburban districts on an equal level. And this is a great opportunity for us to examine and look into all our sports programs to see, what's need to be adjusted so that we can be in alignment, with state and federal regulations about equity and within our kids. So this is some of the things that we talked about. Mr. House is very confident when he's speaking. They've been researching this for a long time now, but now it's about bringing those parents and those students to try to get them involved so that they can help build each and every school. And it's going to be tough, but we're going to have to get kids interested in programs and maybe put some information out working with our coaches. It's going to be a coaching hiring process. So I'm going to cut it off there, but as an equity, I think that we're moving forward in the right direction.
Thank you. Yes, we're very confident that the staff we have can handle this issue and do it in a fair and equitable way for all students and continue to excel this district. So moving forward, we have the consent agenda. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please? I have Paulette Woods, Mr. Scott second, as well as Jen McCousey. Both hands went up at the same time. Any questions?
Ms. Board President Cotton, I did email the exception list to all board members and to cabinet. If you don't have it in front of you, I can go through it if you like.
If I can bring it up for you, Dr. I'll certainly, you are always there for us, and we need to, if I'm giving out any thank yous of late, it is to you for the excellence that you bring to this position. I want to thank you. You have been our go-to guy all year. I have it in front of me, and I want to acknowledge that. I have it in front of me. See anything? Okay, I have it. Okay, so I have, let's see, question up. Mr. Hurd, you have a question with 11B, best social emotional coordinator for PS 89. Your question, please.
Okay, my question reflects going back until the question about Best Self and their development project. I know that that you, President Cotman, Mr. Petrucci, and Kathy Evans. It was also Dr. Darren Brown Hall and Nate Kuzma met with Best Self, I believe October 30th in the morning, about the project over there. And I have a problem approving anything right now with Best Self, only because as I look through the notes from the meeting that was taken, there's a red flag there. It's more of like a Trojan horse, because in these notes I'm reading that it says if anyone that has advanced out of the Lighthouse program, that's the rehabilitation program, that they can move into the new apartments, and that seems like a Trojan horse to put a rehabilitation center in between a charter school and a public high school. And I just feel that that needs to be looked into, and I think that the Best Self needs to meet with the board before this project goes any further. I know the developer, and I know that his intentions are now is to build what he stated as homes, and these homes are supposed to be for community homes But as we look at community homes, I'm not quite sure if this project is privately funded. Are there any HUD subsidies in this project, or would this just be another way to put a rehabilitation center in between two facilities? I think that this needs to be reexamined. I think they need to be brought before the board and speak to the board as a whole to find out what the plans are. Because if you're building housings for residents, low-income residents, it seems that this is a direct line for them to put patients for rehabilitation in between these two educational facilities.
Kuzman, are you there, Mr. Attorney Kuzman? Nate, that's unusual. He's always there. Mr. Hurd, this item that is up, and certainly if the board wants to have best self come before them and talk, we can certainly do that. However, particular item dealing with relative to our, and I'm trying to navigate between all sorts of worlds here, this item here, number 11A.
B.
Okay, is dealing with best self-emotional, a coordinator at PS school number 89. So, Mr. I can understand that you would want to table this item, but this, because of the, are you saying you want to table this item because of best self is putting an apartment complex up and you don't feel that we should approve this at this point? Is that what you're trying to make that point?
Yes. At this point, for more information, because if they were going to put, if a developer was going to put a low-income house residence up, it seems as if that would be one for low-income families.
Mr. Hurd.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, board members. I was on the phone trying to speak. I ran upstairs because apparently couldn't hear me. Whew, catch my breath.
Take a second, Mr. Kuzma.
Mr. Hurd, you acknowledged last meeting you had rental property in the area and that your rental income may be impacted by this project. Respectfully, you should not be speaking on this issue. And I would let it drop.
I never.
You should recuse yourself from speaking on it.
Okay, I never stated that my rental income would be impacted by this facility.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did, sir. And respectfully, sir, you should stop talking about it. That's the best advice I can give you right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Nate Kuzman.
We can revisit this.
I do apologize, Mrs. Board Member Cotman. All of the phone numbers were muted because there was so much background and people playing radios and things like that. When we had the speakers on, that mic did mute all the lines. So that's why Nate was not able to, you weren't able to hear him. All right, so I apologize for that.
Okay, thank you. We know that we're working and we know that Nate is normally always there for us. So we knew he was somewhere in the vicinity working it out. Thank you. All right, let's go back to, and thank you, Nate, for your sound legal advice. We want to make sure members are protected and in good standing at all times. Thank you. 11, I have Mr. Petrucci, various community-based organizations, pre-K programs revised.
All right. Thank you, President Cotman. Just kind of two questions. First would be when this will come back up to be bid, and the second has to do with how they're chosen, because oftentimes when I look at the locations, I see geographic areas that are unserved or underserved, and transportation is always an issue with many of our parents in the district. So I just want to know whether or not geographic location would be a criteria in the next round. I just wonder if someone could speak to that.
Absolutely, Mr. Petrucci. So we did get a response from Jessica Sipes, and they are in the process of writing the RFP for the pre-K CBOs for next year. I understand that they did a workshop so that all community-based organizations that are interested, I know that Mrs. Cotman also heavily advertised that. I believe she was there also, so that we can really get all CBOs that are interested in that. The new RFP, I believe, will be released in February, if I'm not mistaken. And no, geographic location is not considered in the RFP. We go by the rubric utilizing what's best, what's in the best interest of kids as far as the delivery of the pre-K services.
Just my only concern is if they don't have physical access because of transportation or other issues, we're limiting the opportunity for many of our families to participate. That's my concern. But no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what the concern was. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
Next up is 13A, a comment from Board Member Hurd. Superintendent's resolution, inclusion of criteria-based schools.
Okay, Dr. Brown Hall already answered my questions in email.
Thank you. Next, we have a question from Board Member Paulette Woods regarding superintendent's resolution inclusion at criteria-based school, item 13A.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I will quote President Obama from page 16 of his new book, A Promised Land. Hello, can you hear me? He said, people are tired of chronic bias and inequities in one of America's most segregated cities. I wanted to raise my voice for change. People hope that Buffalo Public Schools can be better and serve all of the children of the city of Buffalo. But in Buffalo, the ideas of an education, the ideals of an education for all have never been realized. The historic legacy is a history of exclusion and segregation still manifested in the stubborn racial and socioeconomic inequities today at City Honors and our Criterion schools. The community is asking for an action plan. Time is now for meaningful action rather than flowery statements of idealistic principles. They want deliverables. The reality of disproportionality in City Honors is asking, what actions do you resolve to do to show them that we, the administration, have the will to make the systematic changes that are needed at City Honors and the other Criterion schools. Now, the resolution that was previously submitted at the November board meeting to allow the Jesse Ketchum 40 brightest and best students to attend the high school of their choice, resolution with action that would have created a pathway with a visible, measurable, immediate results. My suggestion is that that should be one of the resolves added to this resolution to begin change now. That community has asked for meetings with the superintendent to be able to give input and suggestions to create more equitable schools and better communication and transparency with parents, especially the 40% who are begging for relief from the online learning. I just wanted to say, Dr. Cash, this resolution will not placate the demand for results, change, and meaningful input into change that the 83% Black and Brown parents of this district have been requesting since 2002 when that VI evaluation group was hired. Once a year reporting of seats available or not available at City Honors or Criterion schools is not delivery of change. So my plea to you is please add an action plan to this resolution and specifically add a Ketchum pathway, which is meaningful, demonstratable, and shows a commitment to the community. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hurd, would you like to comment? You have a piece of this as well.
No, Madam President, my hand isn't up.
Okay. Okay, I have you down here as having a comment. That's what it says on 13A. So I'm just reading it. Okay, no problem.
He already addressed it.
Sorry?
He had said that we already addressed it prior to.
Oh, he said he had addressed it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So my concern here with this resolution is that, and I talked to Dr. Caresses and he did add some things to it. But this resolution is less specific than the Jesse Ketchum resolution. This board had problems with approving the Jesse Ketchum resolution, but they have no problem with moving forward with this. So I have a confusion. I'm a little confused here why this board would not request, and I think that's heard what you were saying. I feel you're echoing the sentiments of the community, but I have a concern why Jesse Ketchum would not be included in this resolution, considering it was much more defined than what this resolution says, and it's a clear pathway to get into priority schools or the criteria schools. So can people hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me, because a lot of people are frozen at this point on the screen. Okay, so when the discussion was had about the Jesse Ketchum Award, there was a lot of criticism about it. Okay, but this is more vague than the Jesse Ketchum Award. And I'm confused as to where the confusion is. Mr. Hurd, is your hand up now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Larry Scott, was your hand up first or what? I'm just starting to see.
First.
Well, let me answer that point first, Ms. Cotman. I instructed those strategies, it's a strategy, to be embedded in here. And we discussed that. There were 4 or 5 strategies. We just didn't get specific about it at this time. But they're embedded in number 2, because that's a civic organization, the Jesse Ketchum Awards. So we consider that embedded as a part of the civic organizations. We didn't name it specifically, but that's where it's embedded. And we've got Buffalo Prep, we've got Mikowski Pre-K to 4. There's a number of other strategies that we're working with, but we didn't want to identify the specific organization here at this time until we talk to them. But it's embedded. The idea of that's embedded as a strategy under number 2.
Okay.
An idea in a premise is not a deliverable.
Okay.
All right. So next is, I think, Larry Scott, then Terrence Hurd, and then Mr. Trucci.
So the characterization of board members or this board being opposed to the Jesse Ketchum resolution is completely false, and it's been stated over and over, and I want to refute that entirely. When that resolution was discussed, certainly people's emotions were running high as a result of another matter, and it was stated, I think by one of the sponsors, it might have been Mr. Petrucci, that the resolution needed work after he talked to staff, that it needed work, and that it had some legalities, flaws with legalities. And so there was a consensus to bring that back to bring that to a work session, to have it refined so that it was actually achieving the purpose that it was set out to achieve. There was no outright opposition to the objective of that resolution. And I remain supportive of the intention of that resolution, what it's trying to achieve, and I still think it should be something that we should consider. My opinion in looking at this resolution, it is really keying in on the significant disproportionality in race at City Honors that has plagued this district for years. And it is looking at using the criteria that we currently have. We have students, Black students, brown students, students that are economically disadvantaged, ELL students, special ed students that have performed at an equal or higher level than white students. And this is a way to actually allow them access to these schools because they've proven on this using this assessment criteria that they've earned that opportunity to be in those schools. So, you know, I'm just going to read one statement from that resolution so that people know how significant this could be. Yes, it doesn't get into specific detail, but that would be the next step where after approval of such a resolution, the district would then work on a policy that would put this into action, such as an action plan. So it says, whereas in an independent analysis, the district determined that had a method and set of procedures been implemented during the 2019-2020 school year in which the district consciously, fairly, and legally considered multiple holistic demographic factors at a sample criteria-based school, the admission rates for underrepresented students would have increased from 26% to 52% of a matriculating class, all without a lower scoring applicant earning an available seat over a higher scoring applicant on the competitive academic criteria. So to me, this is really, for the first time, deeply getting at the root of the issue that has plagued this disproportionality in our criterion-based schools, in particular City Honors. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Scott. Next, we have Board Member Hurd, then Board Member Lou Petrucci, then Board Member Rivera.
Thank you, President Bellum Cotman. Does it need to be put to the to a vote or to the so that this resolution actually can be read so that people understand what the resolution is? And my second question is on paragraph 8 where it says whereas an independent analysis, wasn't there an attachment with the resolution? Was it sent with an attachment about the independent analysis? It was not.
The attachment's on the agenda.
Darren, is Will on the line?
Yes, I'm right here.
Well, get in the meeting.
Yes, the attachment is in board docs that is cited in that section.
Thank you.
And it was sent out into the emails, I believe, of every board member as well.
Right.
We had about 200 emails this about different issues, and I didn't get a chance this evening to get to it. I thought it was going to be sent out yesterday. But,
Are you asking? Excuse me, Terrence. Are you asking about the attachment of this resolution, or are you asking about this independent analysis that they're making reference to? Because I do not believe the independent analysis is attached anywhere in any of the resolutions.
It's on board docs. Open up board docs.
It's in board docs, and it's in board docs, and I also emailed it to the board. It's in both places.
Okay.
Did Mr. Hurd?
I just taking an opportunity to read the independent analysis.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Petrucci?
Thank you. As you know, the initial sponsor of the resolution, the purpose and the intent is to address many of the inequities that we see at our criterion-based schools, to go and to find a pathway or a method that people could understand, but also one that was legally defensible. So instead of basing it upon race or sibling preference or whatever it may be, that we based it upon academic achievement. Imagine that, a school district awarding someone admission to a school based upon academic achievement. So I think that is the sponsor, or that is the intent of the legislation. To what we did discover that, you know, we did go through, we read it, but by using Jessup Ketchum as a benchmark, children entering the 5th grade, and many of our criterion schools start in 5th grade, we wouldn't be able to capture those students. And also the smaller population and the timing of the Jessup Ketchum, I mean, there are things we can do about moving back the date. There are things that we can do about, you know, the highest grade point average as of a date certain prior to the actual, I mean, there are things that we could actually work out, and that was part of the reason why we tabled it. The purpose and the intent, I think that where the superintendent's resolution, which is very well written, very well researched, what gets kind of lost in the soup is those pathways that people are looking for going forward. You know, at what juncture, at what point will we be making those decisions so that parents and educators and students all know that, hey, at this point, if I want to go to, you know, performing arts, or at this point I want to go to Olmsted, wherever the school may be, that they know what they need to do to get in if they're going to go through this academic achievement pathway. And I think that's what's kind of missing. It's something we can build out, but it's not something that's specifically addressed in the resolution. And those were the comments that I heard today when I was speaking to my fellow board members.
Mr. Petrucci, this is Will Carustis. If you look at the resolved on page 2, towards the middle of the document, resolved that the district shall propose to the Board of Education a policy, etc. The purpose of this resolution tonight is to lay the foundation for a very specific policy that answers any question you could contemplate about this work. So I guess I want to be clear, because when I talked with all of you in preparation for this resolution being introduced tonight, that's exactly what I said, that this is not the end of the work. This is the beginning of the work. And what comes next with your approval tonight is the ability for the district to propose a policy in which all of this would be outlined. And as that paragraph says, to do it consciously, to do it fairly, and to do it legally. It's a two-step process. It's not all going to happen tonight, but this foundation is extremely important. And to embrace it tonight, all of you, is extremely important.
Okay, thank you, Dr. K. Next, we have Board Member Revere.
Thank you. I'd like to point out that when combating systemic inequity, we need multiple initiatives aimed at systemic change. So when we have things this embedded, when we have inequity this embedded, we need multiple initiatives. So I don't believe that one resolution necessarily cancels out another, because my understanding is resolutions direct school districts to create policies so that that change is embedded, it's real, it's systemic, and it moves forward. I also wanted to reiterate that I do support the idea of a pathway of school choice for high achieving students. And today I worked on drafting some revisions to the Jesse Ketchum Award so we could consider it. I didn't submit it beforehand because the direction was to place it in committee. So I'd like to follow the directions of the board. I didn't get it done before the meeting. So I worked on it right before the meeting. And the idea is to create a resolution that will complement this resolution, to create the kind of systemic change in the action steps that are needed, and to create pathways, multiple pathways to ensure equity and access. Where my thinking is with this is that we start with what we passed in terms of our equity resolution, and then multiple initiatives come out from that equity resolution. And that commitment to access, to equity, to quality, to opportunity, recognizing our academically proficient students, but also allowing multiple pathways for students who maybe historically have been disregarded, who historically haven't been accounted for. And there are multiple places where that's true. We need equity for all of our students because diversity allows everybody to succeed more. And so I think that I would urge my fellow members to think about these resolutions in tandem with each other, that they're not negating each other, that they can work together to create the change that we all have said we want.
To Dr. Kathy Evans Brown.
Yes, I concur with Dr. Rivera because I was not under the impression that the Jesse Ketchum school choice resolution was being canceled. And I hope that that's not the case. So it's important, as Lou mentioned earlier, recognize these high achieving students every year. And we knew that the resolution was not perfectly written, but we also knew that we ran it through our attorney, and that's why it was proposed. We also knew that we're not the experts or the gurus here on the board to look at how we're going to make this realized. That was the purpose of presenting it to Dr. Cash and his team, so that they could present back to us, once they did the work, solidify this resolution.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Evans Brown. So let's just be clear here, because I've heard this said more than once. Koosman reviews every resolution that is put before this board. So no illegal resolutions are put before the board. It does not happen. That's why we have legal there, okay? And I think we're all saying the same thing. My concern is that, and I want to be clear about this, is that one of the reasons why this has not happened at City Honors at this point in time is because there, quote, has not been any pathways. Okay, and that this resolution for Jesse Ketchum was clear in the final paragraph when it said that the board will direct the superintendent of schools to effectively provide guidelines and procedures and to tell us what needs to be done in order to make sure that this could happen. And that's the reason why there was so much dissension at that meeting at that day, because we have never, as a board, taken it upon ourselves to overstep the superintendent in regards to asking when we ask him to do the guidelines and procedures. So this is why we need to make sure that Jesse Ketchum is a part of that. Lou, it was an excellent idea. See that this new resolution has been enhanced. But I wanted to be clear that illegal resolutions are not presented to the Buffalo Board of Education because we have lawyers sure that does not happen. And if Nate Koosman and our legal staff had not felt that Jesse Ketchum was a pathway for an academic pathway in order to move forward, it would have not he would have not sanctioned it from the beginning. Just want to be clear with that, because that's been said on Facebook, it's been said in numerous things, and we need to be clear that our legal department does not let illegal resolutions come before our board. I just want to make sure of that, because I don't want the public thinking that we're not following legal guidelines. Yes, Ann, and then Larry Scott.
One sec. Thank you. My computer's a little slow. I'd like to second that. The issue is not the legality of Jesse Ketchum. The issue is the timing and the way in which that it would. So there's three things to my mind. One is the timing of it. The issue with the way it wasn't working with existing placement processes, and the issue in my mind, this is just my opinion at this point, I would like to see it expanded so that it's not just for one set of 8th graders, that we also look at 5th graders to widen the opportunities for high achieving students. So again, the issue is not legality. The issue was about feasibility and the ways in which we could make this happen and make it happen in a way that makes sense with our existing processes so there aren't more barriers. And the idea behind that is to open up the resolution in such a way that it empowers Dr. Cash and staff and the district in general to move something forward with a pathway that's actually going to work with what we have in place.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scott, Board Member Scott?
So I just quickly want to clarify that nobody claimed the resolution was illegal. It was stated by somebody that the resolution needed work and it had some issues that needed to be refined so that it was legally sound. And I encourage everybody to go back and watch the meeting so that they can have an accurate reflection of what occurred in that meeting. We are all, I think, in support of proportionate distribution and equitable distribution or access to our criterion-based schools. And so now we need to come together and figure out how best to do that. Thank you.
I think one more hand is raised? Not. Lou Petrucci, is your hand still up or you put it back up again?
I just took it down, Chair. My error.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. All right, so next item would be item 17B. Clark.
That was a mistake. So there was some confusion.
Okay. 17B, all right, thank you.
17D as in dog, not 17B as in boy. That was a question Ms. Woods had about VIA evaluation. She wanted to know what they were and what this board recommendation was for. And I believe Dr. Williams will be able to explain that.
Okay,
Hi,
17.
Dr. Williams.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, VIA Evaluation is an independent contractor, and they hire psychometricians, and so they are able to take a lot of data and to analyze it and to report back to the board some rankings. They look at grading for students that may be applying to City Honors and Olmsted, and they're able to, with respect to those grades, because different schools and different districts grade differently. So some schools use numeric grades, some schools use alpha grades. For some schools, it's a narrative that they use, but they are able to create almost a band, a grade band, and to, in an equitable way, assess all of the data that they get in the grades, the attendance, the test scores that are reported to them. They don't do any scoring, but they get all of the data, and then they share back with the district the rankings based on everything that they've received.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Board Member Woods?
This agency was hired, is it, am I correct, in 2002 when the civil rights suit was with City Honors? Dr. Orville was
that was 15.
I can answer that. Dr. Williams, this is Will, and I can answer that. The first time that they were hired for this type of work was around 2015-16, in which, as a requirement in our responses to our Office for Civil Rights work, we assured the Office for Civil Rights that we would have a neutral, outside, and unbiased vendor that would produce the rankings for any of the criteria-based schools that So that it's more recent than 2002. It's 2015, 16.
Have we my question is that this agency has been around since 2015, and that we are hearing in the community that our efforts on the exams and our efforts have resulted in dropping from 20% to 16% at City Honors. So my question is, when I saw that there is an analysis that says we can do something based on this analysis, has this been asked for before in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19? Is this something sudden? Just wasn't this asked before, and when was this item tested now? A month ago or what?
It's not via evaluation that can do this work. All via evaluation does is tabulate results and give us a ranking that is blind to names and people, okay? They do not create the policies that go into what the criteria are. And it's our responsibility as a district to address the challenges that we have in order to deal with issues like disproportionality. Via evaluation helps us do that because they provide us the raw data that gives us the evidence that we're either making progress or we have some work to do. So just going back to the superintendent's resolution, the resolution is a very powerful attempt to take everything we've learned from all the data in recent years and to concretely create a policy that consciously addresses this problem. Via evaluation doesn't do that, we do that. That's why you have this resolution before you. But VIA just simply tabulates rankings, and they do it in an unbiased way, in a way that is separate and apart from the district.
So that analysis is what is the concrete action part of this resolution?
The purpose of the resolution is to lay the foundation for us to create a policy that very specifically begins to say that we can consciously recognize, in addition to the criteria that children have to meet academically, that we can do two things at once. We can also address disproportionality in our schools, and we can do it in such a way where it's fair, that a lower scoring student doesn't achieve a seat over a higher scoring student. So, so VIA evaluation has a very narrow role. They tabulate results, they do it objectively, they give us those results, and then the district takes that information and issues its admission papers to students.
All right.
The last thing I just asked again, as I asked in my statement to Dr. Cash and to the board, is why couldn't a resolve the pathway of Jesse Ketchum be added to this resolution to make it concrete, something deliverable? I mean, 40 students is not major, but it's something more than theories, premises, and ideals.
Right. When we talked earlier, Board Member Woods, I had mentioned to you that if you look on page 2 of the resolution, number 2, it's clear, expanding. One of the goals of this resolution is for us to expand our strategic partnerships with local educational and civic organizations. Dr. Cash, moments ago, just gave you 2 examples of who those entities are. One of the educational partners we have, which is a very strong partner preparing kids for access to our criteria-based schools, is Buffalo Prep. And probably the strongest civic institution is the Jesse Ketchum Award organization. And that's why he specifically wanted that language in there so that we would reference it. The reality is there's some work to do on that resolution. There's really critical details that have to be worked out so that it can be effective. And we're engaged in that work right now as well. So it's in there, but you you know, I'm explaining to you that that's what that language means in number 2. And as I stated that to you before, and maybe I wasn't clear.
I wanted you to state it so that the community that's listening hear the interpretation of the civic and educational institutions, and that's because the community is requesting meeting input. He considers educational institutions like the NAACP EXO programs. Every one of my sororities and fraternities have excellent programs. The Urban League has committed programs to excellence. There are a number of organizations who are asking for input into making a difference and making the Buffalo schools equitable. So when you make a reference to item number 2, and it says what?
It includes all of those.
Clear. But I wanted to be specific to the groups that are saying, I don't have a voice, you're not transparent, I don't feel involved, and I just want them to understand that's what this things mean.
Thank
right,
you.
but Board Member Woods, I think you just made the point, though, that if we began to list the organizations, we would miss some. So that's why it simply says civic organizations. But I would be happy to reach out to any organizations that you've listed. You and I can communicate and talk about them, and I would be happy to sit down with them and talk to them about how they want to participate in this work.
Including the think tank. Thank you.
Right, will do.
Thank you. Point well taken. Next, we have up can you have Mike Lucci bring up 22, please, annual reserve fund report to the board? Would you be kind enough to bring that up? I have a comment, but I'm going to go to the question of Mr. Board Member Scott.
He's bringing it up right now, President Cotman.
Thank you.
I'm polling my question. It was answered already.
Thank you. So the reason that I asked that this be brought up, did he bring it up yet? Okay. Is it up yet? Because I'm on different screens. You guys see it?
No,
wait,
not yet.
I'm on my own screen. Okay. This is worth the point of taking the time during this meeting to at least let the board look at this and understand the significance of what we're talking about here. And I will, this is the reserve fund analysis for the board for December 2020. And one of the items at the very bottom, the note, it says that the city does not share. Were you able to bring it up? 22A?
Yeah, 22A. I think 22B was brought up. We have to, there we go, 22A.
22A. And the reason that I'm asking that this be brought up is that items, the notes at the bottom of this says that the city does not share interest on amounts classified as reserves in the City and Board of Education joint cash account. The district's external auditor, that the district negotiate interest for these reserves. Further goes on to say, though not a reserve, the city does share interest on amounts classified under number 4 as assigned for the OPEB in the City and Board of Ed joint cash accounts. Up to $485,029 was earned on this assigned funds in 2019-20 fiscal year. And so I wanted to bring this up because the complaints, or one of the issues that have been stated about the city of Buffalo, is that they have not increased for the most part our funding over a 10-12 year. And this conversation that Vice President Lou Petrucci we will be having, the ad hoc committee will be having future conversations with the city of Buffalo in regards to our finances and how they are being managed. And one of the big issues here is earning on this account. Typically, the city of Buffalo, if you take a look, if we have just in our stabilization reserve, $3.8 million, we earned about $23 off of that. We have in the debt service 17,700 and 17 million point seven, and we earned almost $219 off of that. Then we further had debt services. It's reserved for share. Out of 11.6 million, we received $105,000. And so if we were earning any interest off of these accounts that are currently being used, city, we could substantially receive a decent amount of money per year. And in addition to that, we probably have about, I think Jeff gave me a number of somewhere about 1 million or something, or 1.5 or 1.8 million that the city is currently not paying us anything on. And so that would equal, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's more than that, 100 million, I think he said. It would equal something like about, we would receive $1 million a year in interest, something like that. And so all I'm trying to do here is make a point that if the city does not want to increase our funding, the least they can do is give us back our interest earnings that we're making, that they're making off of us, so that we can use it to educate our children. The reason why I wanted to bring this up today. I just felt that it was important, and I think that it should be a part of our conversation as we move forward. And I just wanted to point that out. Mr. Petrucci, do you have something you'd like to say on that? Petrucci?
I'm sorry, President Kalman, my hand was up. It keeps going up. It won't allow me to take my hand down. But thank you for bringing this to our attention.
I think that's important for the board to understand how much money, I'm sorry if the numbers are not right, but Jeff is the one who can provide us with that. But you understand what I'm saying here, that it's important that we start receiving interest, our interest earnings, but to be used for our expenses. Wanted to share that, okay? Thank you, I appreciate that. With that being said, it appears that all other minds are clear. I don't have any other hands raised at this point. What I'd like to do is to move forward with accepting the consent agenda. Attorney Kuzman, can you poll the board and see what their feelings are in regards to this agenda tonight?
Yes, Madam President. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On the consent agenda, how do you vote, Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown?
No exceptions.
Mr. Hurd?
Well, I guess I have to recuse myself from 11B.
Yes, sir. And I think we went through the reason for that a little bit earlier. Other than that, Mr. Hurd, do you have any exceptions?
I would like to speak with you on that matter after, if possible, and no exceptions.
Certainly. Okay, thank you. Ms. J?
No exceptions.
Ms. McCosey?
No exceptions.
Mr. Petrucci?
No exceptions.
Dr. Rivera?
Sorry, more computer issues. No exceptions.
Mr. Scott?
No exceptions.
Ms. Woods?
Exception on the resolution until Jesse Ketchum is passed.
Okay, so that's an exception on 13A. Okay, other than that, no exceptions. President Belton-Cottman?
I have to recuse myself for 9B line 45 due to family relation, and no exceptions other than that.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda passes. Thank you, board members.
And moving forward, board members, we want to wrap this up tonight as quickly as we can so that everyone can get going with their holiday and taking a breather. We do, however, need to go into executive session. And so I'm going to ask, Nate, are you on the your office? Do you need time to get up to the 8th floor?
Yeah, probably about 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I need, we're gonna do the bereavement. Mr. Petrucci will do the honors. That we'll do a motion to go into executive session and I will read it. Mr. Petrucci, would you do the honors, please?
Sure. Can we all rise and take a moment of silence for the people that have passed that have impacted the district since our last meeting. November 12th, Peter John Testa, retired teacher. November 20th, Irene McVeigh, retired teacher aide at City Honors. Anyone who knew Miss McVeigh can attest to her kind heart. She is one of the people that started the Keeping the Dream Alive. I know that she has touched the lives of so many people, particularly those at City Honors. November 25th, Jane Irving, grandmother of Tasha Irving Gardner, security guard. November 26th, Kathy Waterhouse, mother of John Waterhouse, security systems engineer, and William Waterhouse, former laborer too. Mrs. Waterhouse was a longtime retiree and worked in the BPS Sprint shop. November 30th, Robert J. Cressy, father of William Cressy, principal of City Honors. Bob Cressy was a tireless advocate for the city of Buffalo and worked for the betterment of a variety of causes across the city. November 4th, Clara Johnson, mother of Alonzo Smith, substitute teacher. December 4th, Arthur Schneider, father of Rose Schneider, principal at School 89, and I believe that she is presently the principal over at Howden. December 8th, Carl R. Brown, Master Sergeant, U.S. Air Force, father of Michelle Brown Colatz, teacher at School 366. December 9th, John Sapanik, retired BPS math teacher and grandfather of Stephanie Sapanik, E&L teacher. December 9th, Beth Ellen Colby, retired teacher and substitute teacher, taught at School 95 for many years. December 10th, Leonard J. Rizzo, retired teacher, taught at School 89 for many years. December 12th, Marion McCarter, mother of the Honorable Judge Jeanette Ogden. December 14th, Ezequiel Ruiz, longtime Spanish teacher at iPrep High School, also on December 14th. Monica Holcomb of Lancaster, daughter of Lupe Saar, secretary to the Buffalo Teachers Federation. Can we have a moment of silence to honor their passing? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. May I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the following? One, the potential discipline of a specific district employee, and two, pending litigation invoking FS. I see Board Member Makosi. Can I get a second? Mr. Lou Petrucci, Board Member. Nate Koopman had asked us to take a 5-minute recess so that he can come upstairs, and we will be able to convene back in 5 minutes so that we can wrap this up. Thank you very much. Board went into executive session. We are reconvening. The going into executive session was to discuss the potential discipline of a specific district. An action was taken. Into that invoking FS conversation, no action was taken. I need a motion at this point. May I have a motion authorizing the district to pay $35,000 to fully settle lawsuit between the board and the initials SS on behalf of FS.
So moved.
Paulette Woods, I see Mr. Scott. Thank you. Are there any discussions? A vote? All in favor? Do you need to poll the vote? All in favor? Please raise your hand. Exceptions? No exceptions? No, all hands were up. All right. Is there anything else I need to do in regards to this, Mr. Kuzman?
No, thank you, President Kopman. We're all set.
Okay with the executive session at this point? If all minds are settled, we can conclude our meeting. May I have a motion to conclude?
So moved.
Everybody at one time. This is synchronized. I'll take Hope J as well as Jennifer McCuzy. Exceptions, somebody want to stay? Does somebody want to stay? You want to object?
Happy holidays,
All in favor,
everybody.
say aye.
Listen, I object
Happy
2000.
holidays.
Holidays.
I agree, Terrence. I second,
everyone.
Terrence.